Well, there's something that's come up in the papers just relatively recently. But 30 years ago, I was working in, a little bit more than 30, it's about 30 years ago. I was working in the United States, and I was running a British firm of jewelers. We had premises in the Trump Tower, and I used to see Mr. Trump, of course, and work with him and go up to his office and discuss the lease and all that sort of thing. And I remember the first time I went up to his office, the secretary or the personal assistant, I could hardly call her secretary, she showed me through. And she was a nice middle-aged woman, and she said, "Oh, Mr. Trump's just on the phone at the moment, but you can go through and sit there." And I went into the office, and he was sitting behind his desk on the phone, and he went like this, and to usher me to sit down, and he was talking on the phone, and suddenly I heard him say, "Oh yes, Mr. President." No, Mr. President. And I thought, is he speaking to the president? No, I don't think he is. And I thought, he was such a showman that me, a lowly tenant in one of his buildings, and he was showing me this side of himself. It was fascinating. But a couple of years later, I got a phone call from the same personal assistant, and she said, Edward, can I come down and see you? So I said, of course, Norma. Her name was Norma. And I said, of course, you come down. And she said, well, are you free? Are you able to speak privately? I said, of course, that's fine. So she came down to the shop, and I had a wee office at the back of the shop. And she said, I need to talk to you privately. So I said, that's fine. She said, and it's got to be confidential. I said, absolutely fine, whatever you want. She said, no, I want to be sure that it's fine now. I said, no, it's absolutely fine. I feel I can only talk about this now since it's all come out, but it didn't come out from me, but it came out elsewhere. And I said to her, well, what is it, Norma? No, I want to make sure that you understand how confidential it is. I said, Norma, please tell me what it is. So she said, well, Mr. Trump would like to meet the Princess of Wales. Well, the Princess of Wales had just got separated from the Prince. And I was a bit taken aback, and I said, well, she knew that the Princess had dealings with the Princess, and she said, no, he'd like to meet the Princess. I said, I had a funny feeling what it was all about, but I said, well, Norma, what does he want her to do? So she said to me, oh, no, he just wants to meet the Princess. I said, no, he must want her to open a building or front a charity for him. No, he wants to meet the Princess. No. I said, Norma, there must be some sort of reason that he wants to meet the Princess. I can't just, whatever. So he just wants to meet the Princess. I said, what do you mean? So, like, boy, girl, she said to me. I said, boy, girl, but she's the Princess of Wales. So she says to me, and he's a prince here, you know. So I said, at that point, I realized I was done for. And I said, Norma, I'm so sorry. Of course, I quite understand. I'll see what I can arrange when I go back next to London. Well, of course, I did go back to London about a month later. I had never said a word. There was no way I was going to say a word. And then when I returned to New York, which was after the New Year, I returned to New York, put it on the television in the morning, and there was Mr. Trump announcing his engagement to Marla Maples, which was his second wife and the mother of his child. She was already pregnant with the child. So I thought to myself, thank God I didn't do that one. But I was very amused by the whole thing, and no doubt had the princess met him, and had they struck up some sort of friendship or whatever, it could have been totally fired again with poor Marla Maples being ditched at the last minute. But it never happened, and I look back on that with an amusement that has never left me.